Quantum Big with Steve Bartilla. Brought to you by
Today we're going to talk about buck core areas. Before we do, we need to define what a core area is. Whenever I'm talking about a core area, I'm talking about a daylight core area. All that means is this is where Mr. Big spends the majority of his time during daylight. Mr. Big has one home range, just like does. Fawns have one home range, but they have many core areas within that home range. That home range has to be big enough to meet all their wants and needs, specifically their needs. If it doesn't, he's going to die. Their core areas, though, they shift throughout that home range. Before we get into this too deep, though, we need to understand a basic premise, and that is the dominance hierarchy within the whitetail world. It occurs within family groups and it occurs within the buck world. Within the buck world, it is being literally worked out 365 days a year. Most of the year it's just with a glance. It's just with going like that with a front hoof, posturing, stuff like that. We all know though during the rut, it can get downright nasty where these bucks, they are going all out. A mature buck can have multiple core areas, and mature bucks, because we don't have that many mature bucks running around out in nature, because of that, mature bucks tend to be the dominant bucks. The dominant buck takes whatever he wants. Okay, set that aside now. Now let's look at bedding. We've got family group bedding, which is nothing but does, fawns, and their young ones, their young bucks. You also have Mr. Big's bedding. That family group bedding, they are way, way, way more comfortable bedding as close to their primary food sources as they safely can. Mr. Big, he is a completely different animal on this one, people. I'm telling you, he places such a huge premium on bedding safety, it's not even funny. And when he is the dominant buck, he is going to find the best places on that ground, the safest places there possibly is to bed. I'm going to get off on a very brief side note here. If you really want to take your scouting game up another level, when you're out there during the off season and you find these big lone beds, happens to be a rub right over there, but there aren't a bunch of different size beds indicating a family group. There's just one or two great big beds. Squat down in that thing, look around and ask yourself why. Why out of all the spots in this entire world Mr. Big could have bedded, he chose this spot right here. The more you do that, the more you can actually see what these bucks are looking for in bedding areas. Generally speaking, it's a room with a view, or it is some of the thickest, nastiest cover you can possibly imagine, in both cases with ample escape routes. Okay, and if they're harassed a whole bunch in this one area here, guess what? If they've got another area that's at all close to equal, that's what they're going to do. They're going to shift over there. Get out there in the off season and scout. You do that and you will start to see a pattern emerge very, very frequently. And at the same time, remember, topography is not changing from year to year. The environment naturally tends not to change that much. Yeah, it does change a little bit, but it tends not to change that much from year to year to year. When Mr. Big, the most dominant buck in the area, decided this right here, this knob on this ridge, so I can overlook that whole valley down there, and when the wind's coming back, oh man, the wind covers my whole backside. These bucks, they all want the exact same things, generally speaking. Yeah, they have a little personality tweaks and such, but generally want the same things. Because that topography isn't changing, because that habitat isn't changing that much, that spot that's such a primo bedding spot that Mr. Big is willing to defend at all costs this year, really good chance it is again next year. Really good chance it is the year after that. You really a good chance it is the year after that as well. And it doesn't matter if he's no longer alive. There was a reason he's bedding in that spot. He wants the same thing as that other guy does. If this is the primo safety bedding spot this year, guess what? Odds are really high it's going to be next year, the year after that, and the year after that.
Final thoughts brought to you by Huntworth.
Buck core areas are nothing more than the areas that buck bed during daylight. They only have one home range, but they can have numerous core areas. The thing you learn about mature bucks is they place a premium on bedding safety that the family groups simply do not. And your dominant buck takes the best of the best. Because topography isn't changing from year to year, because the habitat only changes a limited amount from year to year, if this right here happens to be the best spot for Mr. Big to bed this year, guess what? It probably is next year too. And you really want to take your game up another notch? When you find these beds during the off-season, squat down in them and ask the simple question, why? Why, out of all the different spots Mr. Big could have bedded, why did he choose this spot right here? You do that enough, and you know what? You can almost predict where Mr. Big is going to bed because you see the same traits displayed over and over and over again. Either a room with a view or nasty thick cover, in both cases, ample escape routes.